Welcome to Reading Through the Bible with Oluken. Hi! Alright, so I feel like we're speeding through the book of Genesis. So much to unpack, though. You can't speed through the book of Genesis. It's a lot. Book of Genesis is a lot. There's so many stories, but this is the thing. I honestly believe if you just read the first chapter of the book of Genesis over and over again, you would learn so much about the character of God. So much, because he reveals himself through his creation and how he spoke the creation into being. But then if you read the entire book of Genesis, it's like, what? So amazing. So we are unpacking right now. Actually, I'm not unpacking anything. We're reading through Abram. Okay, and I'm unpacking as we're going, but I'm not creating a separate unpacking video. This is us reading through chapter 14. So let's continue, because it's starting to get juicy, intense, and maybe a little bit of a reminder of our own world right now. Let's see what God has to say and what happened with Abram and his nephew Lot. About this time, war broke out in the region. King Amraphel of Babylonia, King Arioch of El-Assar, King Kedar-Laomer of Elam, and King Tidal of Goam fought against King Bera of Sodom, King Bersha of Gomorrah, King Shinab of Admah, King Shemeber of Zeboam, and King Bela, also called Zoar. Does this not remind you of some movies where they have all of these kings of, and then they're like fighting each other, and there's the ring, my precious. Anyways, the second group of kings joined forces with Siddim Valley, or in Siddim Valley, that is the Valley of the Dead Sea. For 12 years, they had been subject to King Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year, they had had enough. No more. No mas, no mas. And they rebelled against him. 1 year later, Chedorlaomer and his allies, he had his own allies, right, arrived and defeated the Rephaites in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzites at Ham, the Emites at Shavar Kiriathaim, and the Horites at Mount Seir, as far as El Paran at the edge of the wilderness. They were just defeating a whole lot of people, okay? Just a fighting and a fighting. What? Why all the fighting? Why? Then they turned back and came to En-Mishpat, now called Kadesh, and conquered all the territory of the, a familiar name, Amalekites, and also the Amorites, living in Hazazon Tamar. Then the rebel kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Bela. Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, Bela. There's five kings, okay? Also called Zor. Bela is also called Zor. They keep saying that over and over again. It's important to somebody, maybe not to us, but it meant something, okay? Those 5 kings prepared for battle in the Valley of the Dead Sea. They fought against King Chedorlaomer of Elam, King Tidal of Goam, King Amraphel of Babylonia, and King Arioch of El-Assar. 4 kings against 5. I was just going to say that, but the Bible pointed it out too. As it happened, the Valley of the Dead Sea was filled with tar pits. Okay. And if you know anything about a tar pit, if you've ever been in Los Angeles, there's the La Brea tar pits, right? And it's tar, but if you get into tar, you can't be pulled out. The effort you use to pull yourself out sinks you in. You're slowly sinking in deeper and deeper and deeper until you suffocate and you're just dead. But that's the tar pit. So any animal, you just get your foot stuck in, how are you going to pry yourself out? It's good. God bless you. I don't know. Maybe some olive oil will help release your foot. But if your whole body's in there, you're pretty much done for. So that comes up later. Again, every time they mention things in the Bible is because it's important. And as the army of the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into the tar pit. See, right there. It's important. While the rest escaped into the mountains. The victorious invaders then plundered Sodom and Gomorrah and headed for home, taking with them all the spoils of war and the food supplies. This is why this whole story is important. They also captured Lot, Abram's nephew, who lived in Sodom. Remember, he was living near Sodom when he first, picked going east, and he camped out near Sodom. But now we find out that the king of these places, the 4 kings that went against the 5, they captured Sodom and Gomorrah, and all the people, they plundered Sodom and Gomorrah, and they captured Lot, who lived in Sodom, and they carried off everything he owned. So all his wealth, all his stuff. But one of Lot's men escaped and reported everything to Abram. He's like, I know his uncle. Oh, his uncle is not about to have this. Going straight to him. Somebody's going to come rescue. So he ran and told Uncle Abram everything to Abram the Hebrew. All of a sudden, he's been called the Hebrew. I think that's the first time Abram is called Hebrew, who was living near the oak grove belonging to Mamre the Amorite. Okay, so Abram lives near the oak grove, the oak of Mamre. Remember, he's camping out in tents. And now Lot went from camping out in tents to now he's living in the city of Sodom. Okay, when Abram heard, I'm skipping. Mamre and his relatives Eshcol and Aner were Abram's allies. So Abram he's good to people. So we're friends, you're good. I go to battle, you go to battle with me. You protect my stuff, I protect your stuff. Okay, awesome. It's good to have alliances. When Abram heard that his nephew Lot had been captured, he mobilized the 318 trained men who had been born in his household. It's not any old household when you got 318 trained men. And these, remember, Sarai is barren. She doesn't have any children. So these are his servants and the children of his servants that are trained to protect him and his wife and all his stuff. 318, that is not a small business. Well, it is a small business, but it's a big business for a household, right? Then he pursued Kedorlaomer's army until he caught up with them at Dan. There he divided his men and attacked during the night. So Abram must have some kind of a military skill, or he's just really smart, or he's just really dependent on God. Because so far there's nothing about Abram that says warrior. But when his nephew, that he loves very much because he half obeyed God and took Lot with him when he should have left him behind, this nephew is in trouble. Abram puts up all the fight. They basically arm up and go. And they catch up to them, men who are already in battle, already fleeing. Abram's people are able to literally, outrun them, but catch up to them. Okay. Then there he divided his men and attacked during the night. Kedorlaomer's army fled, but Abram chased them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. Okay. Abram recovered all the goods that had been taken, and he brought back his nephew Lot with his possessions and all the women and other captives. He just brought back everybody. And by the way, other captives, because remember, this king, Kedorlaomer, and his allies had just defeated 5 kings. So this isn't just Sodom. This is no longer just Lot and Lot's family. This is all of Sodom, all of Gomorrah, Who else was a part of the five? Admah, Zeboim, and Bela, also called Zoar. He brought back all the captives of these 5 nations or kingdoms, right? Basically, if in battle, if he just captured the king who captured these people, all of the loot is Abram's, right? But that's not what Abram does. After Abram returned from his victory over Kedorlaomer and all his allies, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the valley of Shaveh, that is the king's valley. Now, as the king of Sodom is going to meet Abram, something else happens. And this is beautiful. And this is referenced in the New Testament as well. So we're going to pay attention. And Melchizedek, the king of Salem, not Sodom, but Salem. And by the way, if you say that together, the meaning of Salem is peace. So the king of peace, who is the prince of peace? So we're meeting the king of peace. And his name is Melchizedek. He's not just a king, the king of peace. He's also a priest of God Most High. Who is a king and a priest? No one serves both roles except one person who is both the king and the priest. But let's keep reading. Melchizedek, the king of Salem, peace, and the priest of God Most High, brought Abram some bread and wine. And by the way, whenever there's a covenant made in the Bible, there's usually food. Almost always. You break bread, okay? It's like it's sealing the deal. So Melchizedek blessed Abram with this blessing, when it's a two-way covenant anyways. Melchizedek blessed Abram with this blessing. Blessed be Abram by God Most High. Who gets to speak for God? Who are you? Where did you come from? How are you speaking for God? Yeah. Creator of heaven and earth. And blessed be God Most High, who has defeated your enemies. Remember I said Abram was not exactly a warrior, man of war, go to battle, army general. But somehow he girded himself up, and 318 men in his household. Basically, he just formed an army just like that. 318. We don't know how many people the other kings had, but you would think with 4 nations, 4 kingdoms, that they had a lot more than 318. So this is not Abram and his 318 defeating these 4 kings. This is God himself. It said, blessed be God Most High, who has defeated your enemies for you, not with you. He defeated them for you. Then Abram gave Melchizedek a tithe of all the goods he had recovered. Abram gave 10% to the king of peace, the priest of God Most High. The king of Sodom all of a sudden appears, and Melchizedek disappears. Okay. The king of Sodom said to Abram, give back my people who were captured, but you can keep for yourself all the goods you recovered. I just want my people. You're not about to take my kingdom. I don't care if you did just defeat this king. I don't care. Give me back my people. And Abram replied to the king of Sodom, I take so much as a single thread or sandal thong from what belongs to you. Otherwise, you might say that I'm the one who made Abram rich, and you didn't. God did. I will accept only what my young warriors have already eaten, and I request that you give a fair share of the goods to my allies, Anor, Eshcol, and Mamre, the people who basically joined him, right? My fight is your fight. I protect yours, you protect mine. They went with Abram to fight the battle to get Lot back. Okay? And he simply says, just give my allies something, because they helped me out. But Abram was not trying to take anything from Sodom. Like, you didn't do nothing, dude. King Sodom, I don't want no part of your world, your worldliness, your sin, the stuff that's yours. Abram's like, not of this world. I don't think so. All of my blessings, all of my protection comes from God Most High. And so that reference to the tithe starts here. I don't recall it coming up earlier. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't come up with Noah. It didn't come up with any of his sons. It didn't come up with Cain and Abel, but it's coming up with Abram. And one of the reasons, by the way, that Abram gave a tenth is because at that time, this is just a little research, at that time, the people of the world would give their gods, lower G gods, the gods that they made of metal and wood, they would give them 10% of whatever it is that they had. So Abram was accustomed to that. That was the custom of the day. And he's like, if they can give their low, small G gods 10%, why would I not give my big G, creator of heaven and earth, 10%? He's way more deserving of it. So that's what he did with Melchizedek. And I believe Abram must have realized that this was another representation of God to him in person. And because he literally repeats what he says, like, I solemnly swear to the Lord God Most High, right? Creator of heaven and earth. And that's exactly the same thing that Melchizedek said. Blessed be Abram. Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth. I love that Abram uses God's words, right? I think it's absolutely beautiful. All right. Thank you for reading through the Bible with me today. Until next time.